Welcome back, everyone, to Not Your Advisor with NYU Grad. It is Wednesday, March 6th. Lots to cover. Let's jump right into the format. Looking today at the breadth situation, we actually had a pretty bullish day despite the Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P being marginally higher. We had 921 new highs versus 172 new lows. So that's still bullish, nothing to really worry about here. Um, Looking at advanced declines, you had 69% of shares advancing versus 26% declining. Looking at the 50-day moving average, you had 37% of stocks under the 50-day. And then on the 200-day, you had 33% of stocks under its 200-day moving average. Looking across the mega cap land, the only complexion that I want to kind of give feedback here on is that the market continues to lose the Magnificent Seven group. When you take a look at Tesla, you take a look at Apple, and you take a look at Google, they're not performing too well. And out of all of those, Microsoft has been such a important name, but that also is kind of just uh, marking time here. Microsoft was down marginally, only down 0.14% today. And then you take a look at Meta, which was up 1.2, and then you had Nvidia up 3.18%. It just feels like as we lose some of the Mag 7, the semiconductor index is taking its place. Looking at the sectors, pretty much everything was green sector-wise other than communication services. The leading sector to the upside was technology, up 1.26%. Then you have basic materials, up 1.18, utilities up basically a percent, and energy up zero point 0.7. Um, let's see, what kind of stuck out today? So we opened up, we kind of sold off in the morning till about 10 a.m. and then we rallied. Now 10 a.m. marked the bottom for the Nasdaq, S&P, and the Russell, and there were some bouts of selling in the afternoon, um, but if you didn't know, today Jerome Powell testified in front of Congress. Um, Started at 10 a.m. and the markets were, fairly bullish while he was in front of Congress. Then within 2 hours, he, stopped his grilling. And then around 2 o'clock, the Federal Reserve Beige Book came out. If you're not familiar with the Beige Book, they take a look at all the regional federal heads and their economic reports, and then they aggregate that nationwide. You can read all of this. I'll link it to the show notes. But that came out, and then that also coincided with uh, what was going on with New York Community Bank in the afternoon, and we sold off pretty hard. But once I would say like 3 p.m. hit, that was pretty much the floor, and the semiconductors reversed higher, and then New York Community Bank, after it was halted, started trading again, and all was well. It just feels right now that there is a very solid bid under the market, and prices only go up. So let's see, and looking at a couple things here. So New York Community Bank in the morning was down big. I'm talking 42%. So if you're not familiar with the story, they were a smaller bank, but then when they absorbed the Signature Bank from failing, they became a large bank. And then all of this other trickery started to happen. Uh, there's just a lot of nonsense, right? They're saying, oh, we were not ready to be a tier one bank and we didn't have the financial controls, yada, yada, yada. CEO steps down. says the new CEO is useless, and then, it's just a clown show. But they were down 42% in the morning. They were halted in the afternoon. Then the news came out that a few firms, including Steve Manchin's Liberty Strategic Capital, if you don't know who Steve Manchin is, he's the former U.S. Treasury Secretary, okay? So they were able to get a group of investors to raise $1 billion capital injection in New York Community Bank. Now, you might be wondering, how can a U.S. Former U.S. Treasury Secretary come up with 1 billion or even a part of $1 billion capital raise? And you'll see in the wiki page of his history, prior to being a U.S. Treasury Secretary, he had a very long career writing successful fiction novels. Just kidding. A successful career on Wall Street. And this is kind of, says everything you need to know about how this game is played. Um, a lot of times you'll hear from Bill Cara the term regulatory capture. And that basically means that an industry has captured the regulatory bodies that regulate that industry. And that's pretty much what has happened with Wall Street, the financials, and all of the stock market. Wall Street not only owns what happens in the stock market, but they generally can dictate to DC what needs to happen, whether through recommendations or uh, bouts of crisis. If, you know, we keep progressing in a few months with no rate cuts that Wall Street wants and needs, I have no doubt that they will manufacture uh, a crash where the government and the Fed and the Treasury will have to step in again to save them. So, and if I sound melancholy, the New York Community Bank news got me a little down. It just feels such like a game show. Like we're all just watching The Price is Right, and Jerome Powell is Bob Barker or something. But I have full faith eventually that price discovery will return um, to the markets. So right now, the semiconductor group is the most crowded trade. Everyone is in the semiconductor section of the pool right now, pissing on each other and celebrating the prices. So be it. Until you see the Magnificent Seven, all of them lose the 50-day moving average, and some of the leadership in the semiconductor space lose their astronomical gains, we are in a bull market. It's just the way it is. What else was strong? Gold, financials, and Bitcoin were all strong today. What was weak, I already covered it, but it was Apple, Google, Amazon, and Tesla. What to watch? Uh, Literally the things I've been saying, the Mag 7, semiconductors, watch yields. Yields came down markedly today as well as the dollar, which gave some wind in the sales of gold. Um, let's see. That's really it. I mean, we're almost at the end of the week. Thursday, we have more Jerome Powell in front of Congress. Um, I just find it hard to imagine that it's going to crash while he's in front of Congress. I'm sure New York Community Bank is going to come up on Thursday, right? Like someone's going to have to mention it, right? I don't know. We'll see. And then we end the week obviously on Friday. I don't see any huge market changing type events like coming out at the end of the week. I mean, you have non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate, but these numbers continue to be revised. So I don't even know who tracks uh, and trades off of this data anymore. Even the Fed mentioned that these numbers might be dubious. So right now, those are the things to watch. I will see everyone after the Thursday session. For premium members, please remain here.